Hey guys, Nick here. I'm going to go ahead and just state the obvious. This is a marketing tool for my real estate business. I've been a realtor for 20 years right here in Nashville, but who wants to listen to a boring podcast about real estate? Good news, it's not. This is a podcast about people that I've built relationships with since I moved here in 1988. If what I stand for resonates with you and you're looking to buy or sell a home in this area, let's talk. No pressure, just a conversation, kind of like this podcast.
This is the 615 Podcast with your host, veteran realtor and entrepreneur, Nick Woodard.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming back and joining us on the 615 Podcast. Producer Jim has told me that I need to remind everybody that I am a local real estate agent here in Nashville. Been doing this for 20 years, and it's all I know. So if you would like any help buying or selling a home here in the Nashville area, would love to help you out. So let's get on to what's most important here. Today, I have on my good buddy, Officer Ryan Howell with the Franklin Police Department. He is not, quote, one of Franklin's finest, but Franklin's actual finest.
So I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Thank you, friend. I love you, buddy. Thanks.
So Ryan's a good friend and a fellow brother in Christ. I met Ryan at a local men's Bible study called Holy Smokes. Is led by a mutual friend, Corky French, with Community Outreach Ministries. So we're just a bunch of guys. We get together once a week in the morning, smoke cigars, sit around a fire, and talk Jesus. Amen. We became buddies.
Absolutely. What a blessing.
Man, we met some really, truly amazing people at Holy Smokes. All the years we were there, they're highly successful guys in that group that I had no clue what they did, no clue of their history, their success, none of that. We just knew they loved Jesus.
Unbelievable, right? You're like, wait, you performed in Las Vegas? You've been so quiet for so long, and all of a sudden you're blooming.
It's like, well, a couple of guys like, you play with Carrie Underwood. Okay, all right. And,
right?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And you try not to be starstruck, right? Like, oh, that's pretty neat. You play, I listen to her on the radio, whatever.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So you are a police officer for Franklin.
I am. I've been in the game about 26 years now. I've been with Franklin going on 21 November. This November, 21 years. Very blessed. Great department to be in.
Okay. Well, I kind of wanted to ask you some questions here. This interview is going to be more like me just ripping off questions and you explaining what you can explain and telling me to shut up. I can't talk about that on some things that.
Well, you're in luck because I love to talk. So you're good. And you may need to pull me back because, I tend to run on. Like to talk a lot.
As of right now, what are the Franklin PDs? What are some of their biggest concerns right now?
So we're working on a hiring right now. We're just hiring boom right now. So if you're interested in law enforcement, definitely go to franklin.gov and pull up applications, look at it. We have a recruiter. If you look up there, there's a box for recruiter. She's fantastic, Lieutenant Will Height. She'll get you on board. She'll talk to you. A lot of recruiters don't. You put your name in the box and then you fill out the applications. You go through the whole process. Well, nowadays, not everybody's wanting to be a police officer nowadays. Hard to believe, but you want to have someone to ask questions to. And I think that's something we do great at City of Franklin is we could sit down with you and say, hey, why do you want to be a cop? Not just because I want to help people. Tell me what your family desires. Does your family want to live in the city? Does your family going to be okay with you working midnights for a little while until we get manpower? Just the honesty of not, okay, this is a great department. Come on in. And once you put the handcuffs on, we got you. We actually care about the officer. We want you to stick around. We care about you. And you hear the whole the time, we're family, we're this and that. We actually are a small town department still, even though we're kind of large. And with that being said, people trust us in this department. So you got to have some pretty good candidates for the job. You can't just have all Joe Blow over here because he knows how to put on a pair of handcuffs. You've got to know what you're doing. So,
well, Franklin, statistically, is a very, very safe place. But just like anywhere else in the country, I'm sure there's some darkness out there. Like, what are some of the things that you guys are seeing out there that we out in public should be maybe aware of and looking for? What are some of the biggest concerns right now?
Fraud's huge. So the elderly have a substantial amount of money and the people are frauding these elderlies like crazy. They'll get in there and be like, hey, you have a parking ticket. You have a warrant for your arrest. Go down to Walgreens and get $8,500 worth of Apple gift cards. And, bless their heart, the old folks don't know what Apple gift card is. Yeah. They do what they're told because they trust people. So after that damage is done, their family usually go, hey, I know they were a victim of fraud. And so just trying to get out there to educate people. Hey, if you think something looks fishy, call us. There's a good scam going on right now where somebody will call and say, I'm with the sheriff's department. You can meet me in the parking lot. And they'll actually show up to the parking lot of the sheriff's department to get money. Like, it's the gall these people have nowadays. So there's just a lot of stuff going on like that really breaks your heart. But we got to put a squash on it. And we're doing a good job because it's lowering right now. But a lot of that stuff's going on in crime, kind of sophisticated crime. Because in our bubble, we call Williamson County the bubble. We're blessed to not have any violent crime to the rate maybe up north might have,
Right.
So we're very lucky with that, but it's different.
So I've always wanted to ask you this. I know me and you kind of see things eye to eye while we're buddies, but
Absolutely.
I want to talk about lawfully carrying a firearm. Like, how does law enforcement feel about the public out there? Do you feel safer or less safe knowing that there's legal carry? People that have done it the right way, but they're out carrying.
Mm-hmm.
As law enforcement, how do you feel knowing that's out there?
And thank you for asking that question. So a lot of people ask us that all the time. Me personally, I can't speak for other departments because they do different things. For us in the South, you are pretty much born with a gun in your hands. Let's be honest, right? Your parents train you. You were brought up to hunt, to do other things like that. So majority of the people that are carrying it, if they tell you,
I don't know what you're talking about.
See what I'm saying? So dangerous. But you know what I'm saying is they're qualified. They've been raised
Right.
how to properly handle it, to acknowledge what is dangerous about a weapon. And I love that fact because they'll come to me, hey, is it okay if I do this? Well, if you're a criminal, you're not going to say, hey, I'm a felon player.
Exactly.
Is it cool if I just sling this bad boy?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's not what's going to happen. So it's always good to know. And they have a lot of good questions to ask. And I feel blessed that they're confiding in me to ask those questions. So I love it. When I pull up to a car, heading a traffic stop, they're very mindful. Just want to let you know I've got a gun here. That's respect. And I tell them the same thing. I'll treat you the same respect you show me. Thank you. I appreciate that. Just do me a favor. Don't go show me what you got and you're, and pointing at me. And we'll be friends forever.
So funny story. I was bringing my son back from ball practice. This was a couple years ago in Nolensville, and got pulled over. They had don't get me going on this, but they had just changed the speed limit in this spot that I've gone through my entire life, and they dropped it to 30.
Oh, yeah.
It's been 40 since I was 7 years old.
Right.
And so, got pulled over. Not a big deal. Didn't even get a ticket. Was fine. But the officer that pulled me over, I did that. I said, sir, just want to let you know that, I've got my firearm on my right hip, and, just want to make sure you know that. And he looked at me dead in the eye and goes, well, son, if you keep yours in the holster, I'll keep mine in my holster and we won't have a problem.
So I was like, well, that's true,
that
though.
was awesome.
It de-escalated it. You were laughing at each other. You had a good experience with him. Like, that's so important, right? I love that. So and we come across that a lot. We really do. And the thing is, I am blessed to have a community that believes in that, simply because if I am struggling on a call, I feel bad for the bad guy because you got 5 guns that are going to pull over and they're going to take care of business for you. So am I worried about it? I'm not. There's a 1% of bad everywhere in life, right? But I know in this area here, I've turned around before when I've had people acting a fool and look behind me and there's 3 or 4 people behind me.
Yeah.
Come on now. Williamson County.
We've always joked about, wouldn't love it, but would kind of, if somebody showed up at Holy Smokes when we were all there with some bad intentions, I don't think it would end up very well.
No, we experienced that at one time with that gentleman and he didn't come back ever since. So, we're pretty much taken care of, I think. Yeah.
So as an officer, I know I train a lot with mine. How often are you guys training firearm?
So years ago, the wars, it was a shortage on bullets and stuff like that. So we went from 40s to 9mm. Okay. So we had to transition because it was expensive to get the 40s, right? So went to 9mm. And now we have less of a problem now. So we're starting to relax more and do more drills and stuff like that. But, there was a shortage when people didn't know. You remember you're paying how much for a box of ammunition, right? So that carries down to us. We don't just buy like 25 boxes at a time. We're buying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of ammunition because we have to, we have to train.
I remember I bought a box of 400 rounds of AR. This probably would have been 2020. Was it 2020, 2021 when things got wild?
Yes.
And I spent $400 on that. Yep. And I remember telling myself 10 years from now, I'm either going to be so happy I bought it when I could, or I'm going to look at myself and go, you spent $1 a round.
You know, those were the days where people would come in. The first thing was like, hey, how you doing? It's like, hey, guess where I got good deals at? Academy Sports. And now it's
people
eggs,
would
right?
wait up with it. So when the door opened, everybody would run in and get the ammo.
And you're like, you can't hide money. Look at this guy. He bought 4 boxes today. Unbelievable, you know? But, you know, so to answer your question, we do train a lot when we're starting to go back to the norm and do some drills and some other stuff like that, which we'd love to do. Again, it's hard because we used to have tons of manpower to, you know, train a little bit more. And now it's a little bit still tough. We're getting more people on board, but it's ebb and flow, right? Hopefully you can train a lot if you can, but again, sometimes you're not able to.
I want to do like, if they ever did civilian active shooter training, I want to do that so bad.
I could see you busting through windows and like swinging from ropes. You're that guy. But see, you know, the church security, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand this, but those guys who volunteer their own time spend 40 hours a week training, and people just discount like, oh, there's some yahoos carrying these guns. These are some of the highly trained guys here. Some of these guys I'd rather have by my side than some of the guys I work with, to be honest with you, because they volunteer, they do what they're supposed to do. And we have a gentleman at the church that I do security for right now who's actually going to be a reserve of the sheriff's department because he enjoys it so much. He loves the training. He takes the job seriously. He's honed his craft at talking to people. So it's not just about slinging a gun. It's hey, you know, what skill set do you have? So I always encourage people, hey, man, go serve in your community. Go help out with churches and stuff like that because it helps a lot. They don't just let some yahoo with a gun in there. You have to have a lot of training, so it's helpful.
So we hear about it all the time. Whenever an officer is in a situation where they have to use deadly force, there will be repercussions that officer will live with forever, especially in the public eye. That has to be incredibly stressful. I mean, you have to make an instinctive decision. You cannot hesitate on that, or it could cost you your life. Like, how in the world do you handle that, and how do you train for that?
It's extremely stressful. So, you know, when I first got started, I was 21 years old. I didn't have to worry about a family. I didn't have to worry about a house I might lose, a car, anything being sued. As you progress in your career, things become a lot different. I was on the SWAT team for almost 10 years. You know, I was a young buck and I could do all sorts of wild things. And as life gets to you and you have a child and you think, well, I need to pull back just a little bit, things are a lot different. So the backstop and beyond, you know, most people shoot at targets, right? You got a paper target that's not going to scream back at you or anything like that. You know, most people aren't cognizant. What's behind that target at that business? You know, they don't think about that. We are accountable for every bullet that goes down range. Soldiers are a little bit, I guess they have more. I wasn't a soldier. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for all you do. They can, you know, they're a different situation. Yeah. So we're accountable, and that's hard to do. So someone's blasting at you and you see a daycare behind you. What do? Do you blast back because you know you have a skill set? But let's be honest. Even though we're law enforcement, we're not hitting the target every time. Yep. Stress, everything else that comes into play, right? So you just need to be cognizant of a lot of things. And like you said, you've got 2 seconds to decide what you need to do. Distances, you know, people around you. It's highly stressful. And as you get older, again, you take measures in place to maybe better yourself. So it's not, you know, you don't approach someone head on. You may just be a little bit different. And that's where the old salty guys get a bad rap. Like, hey, what are you doing over there? What are you doing? Well, I've learned over 26 years what I probably should do and what comes natural to a new person. Well, I'm just going to go straight up. No, because see how I can't my body? That bullet has to go this way. It's not going to hit you or him. It's going to go this way. So it's a weird approach. And I'm getting that person's OODA loop to get in there so they don't have to jump and just, you know, take action. I have better means to backstop beyond and stuff like that. So there's a lot that you have to go into, but you learn.
And you're calculating that in a split decision. And I taught Citizens Police Academy at Franklin. We have a program there. It's phenomenal. There's a 4-year waiting list for that program. I taught it last night, and, you know, people are having a good time, and I shot less lethal shotgun. And I said, you know, this is stuff that not everybody carries, this less lethal shotgun. What's that for? I said, well, we have an arsenal in our car of different means to, you know, take care of situations, neutralize the threat. And you've got to be good at this. You can't mess around, you know. Hopefully you have the time to get this out. But, you know, all these things you got to think of driving to the call. Your MDT, your messages are coming through with dispatchers talking to you. And if you don't have ADD, as a cop, you're going to get ADD. And if not, you're not going to survive. Yeah. You have all these things coming through. What are you doing there? Survive. And then the camera's got to be on all the time. You know, if you forget to turn the camera on, you're going to get in trouble. And not that you're trying to be, you know, I'm trying to hide something. You have 55 things going on at the same time. You know, so there's just a tremendous amount of stuff that you have to train for and be good at.
Not even mediocre. You have to be good at that.
So have you, if you can talk about this, have you ever been in a situation where you had to make a split decision in a high pressure situation?
Yeah. So I worked at a mental hospital in North Carolina and had to do some unique stuff there. You know, on the wards, they call you because you're the last hope they have. So, there's been some trauma, if you will, that I've had to endure. And there's been, a SWAT team for all those years. There's one call there that I'm sure you'll get into PTSD and everything like that later on. But a veteran that was in a condo, 2-story condo, and we're sitting at the bottom of the steps right there. And, the information we got is he possibly had a grenade. So we had a ballistic blanket at the bottom of the stairway. Well, you know how much damage a grenade's going to do. Oh. And I just sat there thinking, this is going to end very badly, So you're sitting there for half an hour, 45 minutes thinking, God, please, I hope this shift gets over so the next guy can come in here so we can figure this out and buy some time because this is sketchy. So again, your mind's always thinking, we're always thinking 2 steps ahead as law enforcement because you have to have all these plans ahead, so it's exhausting at the end of the day when you get home and then you've got your family to, hit the switch and say, hey, Daddy's good. When in reality, holy cow, you got a lot on your mind, and you've got to be that good partner and good parent, and try to take care of yourself at the same time. So a lot of guys, they don't digest that and then purge it and try to figure it out. They just, it's me being a cop, It's not you being a cop. You got other obligations at home that really is more valuable.
Well, that was kind of going on to my next question. Like, how do you decompress from the stresses of your job?
Yeah.
Like you got to be able to leave that and go home to your daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned my first job, I was a police officer and fireman, public safety, they called it in North Carolina. And that was a fun job, being a fireman and police officer. Well, it was my birthday. And I learned the value of a team probably that day more than anything else. It was my birthday, and my fiance at the time, girlfriend, fiance, she pretty much was like, I have a surprise birthday for me. Well, we lost a little child that drowned, and our whole team was there. Well, you don't just come off that, and go, okay, let's go party. Let's go have a good time. Yeah. So I got home not knowing what was going on. I said, hey, I just need a few minutes to decompress. I didn't know how to address the issue at the time with her. I just wanted to say, just give me a second, which is not me. I'm high strung all the time. Yeah. But I wanted to be healthy enough to have that conversation. So we get there. Well, hey, we've got to go to your party, or we got to go somewhere. I knew something was up. So long story short, I had an idea what it was. We get there, and all my buddies had endured that trauma. We're at the party too. And we're kind of like, hey, yay, going through the motion, trying to be good for me. Yeah. But we as a unit healed from that together. We went and rode 4-wheelers the next day. We did all sorts of stuff to kind of talk about it. And we were young. When you're young, you don't really have the experience or the wherewithal to go, hey, I'm struggling. How do you cope with this? Because, I'm 22, I'm bulletproof, And so those guys, thankfully at my time, they were firemen too. And they, I'll be honest with you, the fire guys that I was around, they had an easier time talking about trauma than we did. I don't know. We're both macho alpha dogs, right? But they had the craft to do that. And it worked out good. So I saw the value at that point in time. From there on out, if I struggle, I'm going to talk to somebody. My father was a retired chief of police and police officer. I call him up and say, Dad, how did you deal with this stuff too? And he'd give advice, the advice he'd give would maybe a little bit different than modern day stuff that we'd have to heal and do stuff with. But nevertheless, it was good information for us. So I had to heal. So,
well, one thing I wanted to ask you about, you've been a father for a little while now, and have you noticed any differences in how you assess a situation now compared to when you were just a single guy? Like, surely you pay attention to things a little bit differently as a father. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, like being a father myself, like I'm acutely aware of my surroundings, especially when my kids are with me. Where are the exits, where are the potential threats coming from? Just, you scan a room and just kind of pay attention. A lot of people think it's neurotic, but it's not. You're just going in and going, okay, I need to know what to do if something were to happen. So do you find things a little bit different now that you're a father compared to when you were just a young buck?
Absolutely. 100%. They didn't sign up to be in this world. You signed up to bring them in this world and protect them. That's your obligation. Besides anything else in this world, that's what you do. So when I was a single guy and, the dating world, it was super fun, right? But you can't help but be a little quirky. Again, that's what you do, right? I got to have my back to the door. How many guys say I got to have my back to the door? Well, this is real world for me. Like I've got guys in the community that aren't happy with me, who I am. So I can be hurt. So I do want that, Now I'm not super hyper vigilant where I'm like, I can't talk to you right now. I've got a bad guy in my 6, being all crazy like that, But But in
It's
the
just
same breath,
aware. You're
just
processing
very aware.
things.
Yeah. And so before I had my daughter, I was a motorcycle, and I was on the SWAT team. Two most dangerous things that you can do in law enforcement, right? And I was very proud of that. That's two difficult things to do.
Yeah.
So mom called me up one day and says, you're killing me. And I said, what do you mean I'm killing you? I'm a good kid. I got a good job with a kid. You've got the two most dangerous things. You ride a motorcycle and you're on the SWAT. Do you think you can give up one of them? That'd be helpful because you're killing me.
You're not going to give up the motorcycle.
No, that was not an option.
I know you too
That's
well.
not an option. That's my life, right? That's not my. So I was blessed. A year goes by and I meet a wonderful girl. We end up having a child together. And I'm thinking, I can handle this. This will be okay. She was very supportive of SWAT and motor. Hey, she got my back. She was doing wonderful things to raise Hazel. And one day we got a SWAT call. It was about 2 a.m. And I go to the bed and my baby's sitting in the bed and I pick her up and the SWAT call out and I gave her a kiss goodbye. And man, I'm emotional. We are emotional people, and immediately I started crying and I'm trying to go to the call and it's a pretty serious call. And I was getting nervous and I was like, golly, man, what if I don't come home one day? That's always in the back of your mind. But again, with this beautiful Williamson County, whatever. But when stuff hit the fan, like that was my job on SWAT. They can't call anybody else. That's who they call. And at that point in time, I said, you know what? I gotta be more mindful of how I do stuff. I got to give up stuff. So when I gave up SWAT there, I could have more energy to be more hyper vigilant, because you hone your craft and you're doing so many things that at the end of the day, when you get home, you're a little tired. Well, I can't be tired for my daughter.
Yeah.
I had to be.
Speaking of, like, do you, how old's Hazel now?
She's 8. She'll be 9 in November.
Okay, so are you instilling lessons in her now of things that maybe, a regular 8, 9-year-old. So story, this happened to me and it was nothing, but this was a teaching moment for my son, Caden. I took him fishing the other day. Actually got him out of school early and,
Sinner.
Took him fishing. So
great job. Good job, Dad.
But when we were done, we got back to the ramp and there was nobody else at the ramp except for there was a dark car parked in the corner with 2 guys sitting in it. And, I told him, I'm like, okay, I'm not concerned about this, but this is something you need to be aware of. Mm-hmm. And so I went and got the truck and the trailer, backed it in, put the boat on the trailer, told him to get in the truck, and we drove out of the parking lot. And usually I'm stopping in the parking lot, lowering the engine, putting the straps on, all that stuff. I told him, I was like, hey, we're going to go about half a mile up the road to the gas station to do this.
And he figured something was up.
So again, I don't think anything was going on, but it was something I wanted to teach him. Okay, if you're ever in this situation, just be aware of what's going on. I don't think those guys are up to anything, but you don't want to be out here by yourself in a parking lot with nobody else around.
Absolutely.
If you have the option of going quarter mile down the road and being around people.
Right. And that's what I tell Hazel. I said, I will not raise a victim.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my job in life. I'm going to educate you so you have the tools in your toolbox to use. And so she knows where to walk with me beside me. She knows when Dad acts a little bit different to key in on me. Like she'll pay attention to me if we go to Walmart and I might see something that's a little bit sketchy and kind of go down a different aisle. She doesn't scream out like, what's going on, Daddy? Or what's going on? Where are we going? She kind of keys in on me and doesn't say nothing until I say, hey, and I always explain stuff to her. I'm sorry if this was different, but this is why it was different. I'm very honest with her and open with her. Yeah. And she understands that. To your point is the other day she comes up and she's like, Daddy, there's a strange man dressed in black with a hoodie. I'm like, okay, what's strange about him? He's staring at us at the park. Like, okay. So her mom goes, okay, that's the gentleman that works out at the gym. I know exactly who he is. And I told her, her mom was a little put off by that, kind of like, oh gosh, here we go, and I said, I appreciate
she's aware of it.
But she's aware of it. And I said, I appreciate that. And she's got the other kids in the community being hyper vigilant. Like, hey, we're looking around. And they come get me if something comes up and I bust out there like Superman, like, this is all taken care of, guys. I got this. So, it makes me feel good. But she's 8 years old. Yeah. These kids nowadays.
Situational awareness is what I teach my kids.
You have
constantly.
to do it. You have to do it, and it's not going to wear them out. Just, paying attention, put the phone down every once in a while, look around, see where you're at, what's going on. Don't walk into a car, when you're not paying attention. Just, you have to teach kids that nowadays because we have the most technology to keep our kids safe, but it's dangerous out there because it's counterintuitive. They can use that technology against our kids.
So, obviously one of the biggest talks now of kind of the evils that are out there is fentanyl. Are we seeing any of that in our area? And are you seeing any lives destroyed because of it?
So yes, we are small town still, but we have a huge city close by. We have a major corridor that comes to their 65 that comes to our city. So they are people that work in bigger metropolis that's up north, right? And they come down here to live in the county and city. So not everybody makes good choices in life. Now, I can tell you right now, at one point in time, we were Narcan probably at least 2 a day. Narcan for, that neutralizes fentanyl or whatever drug that they might have overdosed on. And we were running and gunning for quite a while. I've noticed lately it's kind of subsided just a little bit, which we're so grateful for, because that is extremely traumatic. If you've never seen that before, you've got a person basically that is dead and you Narcan them and they come alive like a zombie. It is super intense. And then those poor people that are on the cycle. And I say poor people because my heart bleeds for people that are addicts.
Yeah.
I hate that for them. Their family, I hate that for them. But some of these addicts will go back and they'll go to the hospital for a few minutes, come back home, hit the same supply and overdose again, same day sometimes. So it's heartbreaking for you because you want to be like, hey, I'm so sorry for you. Then the second day you want to shake them and say, what's wrong with you? And it's a hard struggle for everybody involved. It really is.
So it's going back to kids. So as parents, what should we be more aware of these days that's a threat to our kids? Like, what are you seeing out there that, okay, maybe the average parent isn't paying attention to, that, hey, you need to focus on this because this is a real threat?
Mm-hmm. It's hard to say because each community has their own different challenges, right? If you live out in the county, you might have different challenges in the city. For me in the city right now is I give my daughter a tablet, right? Because daddy needs some downtime. I'm exhausted. Let me just watch some car shows. So watch some Vice Grip Garage on my YouTube that I love. And you just watch your tablet. Well, next thing you know, you hear a little thing and you're looking over and you're like, why are they dancing? Like and it's some crazy stuff that originally wasn't, it was just a game they were playing. And then they go down the rabbit hole. Let me click on this thing that popped up. Next thing you know, Dad, can I get this game here? And you're like, what game? What is that? So you try to protect them from that stuff because they can reach out on your tablet and really talk to people. Next thing you know, they might be sending pictures because, hey, I get $10 to send a picture of my face or my foot or some strange thing. And then it escalates to bad stuff for, high schoolers. And next thing you know, they're trying to extort these kids. Like, hey, if you give me $100, I won't blast it on social media. Mm-hmm. So what do the kids do? They get $100. If you give me $1,200, I won't do it. And they try to get the money and try to, it's blackmail. But it comes down from tablets and it comes down from, your telephone. So if you can just be mindful and actually pay attention and let kids know, I know that you're not going to like me right now, but I have to protect you. So I have to put these things, I have to see your phone every once in a while. Yep. I have to do it. And I don't, it's
my wife does a great job of that.
It is so
every
vital.
Few days. Okay. We sit down and go through everything they looked at, mm-hmm. every communication, everything they talked about. It's
so vital, and again, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. Right. And I know all your friends, all my friends do this. My friends do that. Maybe sometimes the parents aren't as good as you are. And that's what I explain. Hey, listen, I'm a police officer. These are some things I see happening that my friends don't know about yet. So that's why I'm really going to hover over you for right now until I get the word on the street that this is a new thing. So you'll understand when you're an adult that I love you. And that's why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this to be mean because I don't want to hurt someone that hurts you.
Yeah. So a buddy of mine told me this and kind of want to put it in your lap, see what you think about it. So mainly going on in high schools, some middle school stuff, but these kids sending each other nudie pictures. Mm-hmm. And okay, let's just say this girl sends this boy a nudie picture. She's 16, 15 years old. The boy does what boys do. I got this picture. However, that phone is probably registered under mom or dad, not him. So therefore, mom and dad now have underage pictures on their phone.
Mm-hmm. You can go down a rabbit hole pretty quickly with that stuff, there, and that's one thing you got to tell people. Say, hey, listen, this is your little world. You think it's not hurting anybody, but like you said, they don't think about charges. They don't think about jail. They don't think about the bigger picture because everyone's doing it, Dad. I mean, it's not a big deal. But at the end of the day, if we had to get a phone call from somebody else because your son is begging for pictures from a woman and then gets these pictures and then we got to get a subpoena for the phone and then we got to do all this stuff here, we know for the most part who's innocent, who's guilty most of the time. But it's embarrassing because if you get a subpoena, Snapchat, it goes away. It doesn't. I'm here to tell you, if it's a phone,
nothing goes away.
Nothing ever goes away.
Yep.
You can. And I had a girl I was dating one time, and I explained to her daughter. I said, "Hey, if I got a subpoena, I can get all the pictures." And like, how scary would that be for me to go to your grandparents, say, here's all the pictures, because you said they're good, right? Here's all the pictures, look through them. And her face turned white. And I said, think about that. Don't take any pictures that your grandparents won't see. Mm. That always got to me. Mom said, you can be a jerk to me, but if your grandparents can't, and that always worked for me, So that's what I tend to do. Hey, would you be ashamed if pictures came out to your family? Most of the time they kind of, they'll twitch a little bit and go, oh, you're right. Yeah. You're not going to stop it. Let's be honest. Kids nowadays, they're hard-headed and they're not going to stop it, but you can put the bug in there and plant the seed. So maybe one day they go, hey, listen, he might be right. I don't want to do this, because
it was like when we were growing up, though, we made some dumb decisions, but it wasn't an era where that could follow you for the rest of your life.
100%.
Like everything wasn't documented. We didn't have pictures. We didn't have videos. We didn't, thank God. But that's what I tell my kids all the time now. Don't make a decision today that affects the rest of your life, because it doesn't go away.
Oh, it doesn't go away. Well, for instance, jobs nowadays, you got to put down where your social media ads are, everything you're putting down there. Well, why do you need that? Mm-hmm. Let me tell you why you need that, because they're going to pull that up because you're representative of that company. And if you're flaunting around doing some silly stuff, guys included, acting a fool, then they see that and you can get passed over for a job because, well, I was only 18 in that. I'm sorry about your luck. You were in a silly outfit that, you thought was funny at the time for Halloween. No, that stuff haunts you from years back. So just try to act right and be mindful.
So let me ask you, what sucks most about your job?
You don't have enough time now. No, it's not specifically Franklin Police Department. It is law enforcement in general. What it comes down to is trauma. Every day you go to work, you're going to have trauma because you're not calling me over to have a barbecue. You're not wanting to hang out with me and say, hey, Ryan, what's going on? I'm trying to solve a problem in your life, right? And if you call us, more than likely, you probably couldn't figure it out that time or you need more help. So knowing that people are struggling and you got to go from one call to the next call, and you don't just chalk it up, but okay, next call, then I'm going to go home. It's no big deal. You're always thinking about that. And I talk about graveyards. The city is like a big graveyard to me. As I drive through a certain street, I go, that's where that old man passed away, or that's where that kid got beat up, or that's where this, you're going to have tons of trauma over your career. And you can do the job. You're taught to do the job. You're taught all these things, how to do a job well, reliability, to self-preservation, everything like that. But one thing that we are starting to do now in law enforcement, and it's just a few years old, is how to take care of you. When I get home at the end of the day, why am I working? I'm working to earn money to help my community, but I'm taking care of my wife, my daughter, my children. That's the end goal, because this job's only going to last 25 years. And you're going to live to be, Lord willing, 85, 90 years old, right? If you're smoked, how are you going to fix that? So the trauma is what gets me the most and how to fix that. So peer support, other stuff that's super vital. You have to be a man and say, if I'm not going to fix me for me, I'm going to do it for my daughter, my loved ones. And that's holy smokes, you know, those guys they're like, hey, I'm struggling with whatever they're struggling with. And we can say, hey, listen, I dealt with that too. Here's the tools. So I think it's very valuable to pass on tools to know how to fix yourself. For instance, we have a counselor at the police department. If you're just having a bad day and you're like, I can't get through this struggle, my wife is being super ridiculous today and I can't figure it out, I'm going to go to the counselor and say, hey, listen, what's wrong with me? And, they're not going to fix you in 5 minutes, but it's nice to know you have a friend that you can go to. So that's super important. But trauma is, for me, that could be detrimental to everything. So you got to fix that part. Yeah. You have management issues, all that stuff. That's in general. In law enforcement in general, you're always going to have those problems and talk to cops who are just, I can't stand brass or this and that. Let's be honest, that's everywhere. But at the end of the day, you can walk away from this job. If you haven't healed from that trauma, you got nothing.
Yeah. Man, putting your career aside, I respect the hell out of you.
Thank you.
You've always been there for me. You were there during some of my darkest times. I know your heart. I know you're genuinely a good man. Now, you've recently put effort into a side hustle. Tell us about Fat Daddy Travels.
So
you're seriously fun. One of the funniest people I've ever known in my entire life.
Well, I appreciate
your what not to do at Costco is phenomenal.
We had a lot of fun. So I was very blessed to have a wonderful person in my life. And she taught me all about, influencing, because, we're very sarcastic as cops. We just always sarcastic because that's how one of our trauma responses is, we're just very smart and goofy and stuff. So I'd sit there when I just say stuff and she was looking at me like, why don't you have your own something to do something. I was like, is that even a thing? Like, she's like, yeah, it's a thing. You're wasting your gift on this. So she put all this stuff together and we go out and just do goofy stuff. And it was a twofold thing. It was like getting people to laugh because I love to laugh. Like, I so enjoy making people laugh. So I was doing that. And then at the end of the day, we were going out doing stuff. So that kind of helped me with my trauma, right? And just, this was a good day. At the end of the day, you're happy.
Absolutely.
And people like you, they remember goofy stuff. I'm like, wow, I only had a couple videos and these people are really enjoying this stuff. But it's stuff that we all think about, right?
Oh, God, Fat Daddy and his roving band of idiots with Josh and Buck. Like, that is so classic.
I tell you what, so
that is not viral.
We're working on it. So I have a crew of 4 guys roughly that are just, we love riding motorcycles and smoking cigars. That's kind of our jam. So Fridays we get together. And, we'll go to the cigar shop. We mix it up in Middle Tennessee and just ride a motorcycle, have lunch, have a good time. Well, one day, one of our guys, he's my stunt double, I call him. He looks similar to me, but he's more handsome. Dang it. He says, hey, let's go to Goodwill. You've seen this happen, bachelor parties.
Which one?
Josh.
Yeah.
So he says, hey, let's spend $20 and we'll go buy some goofy stuff. I'm like, challenge accepted. He said, but here's a caveat is you got to buy it for me and then I got to buy it for him. And then we go to run. And then if you buy something super ridiculous next week, it revolves back. Ooh. So I was like, oh boy.
There's strategy.
There's strategy involved. Trust me. So you can't go too crazy, right? Because that's going to come back at you, which I don't mind. You know me, I'm goofy, but I have certain, insecurities in my life, let's just say. So I don't want to wear like a mesh shirt with like my body hair. So, that's not me. So the first day, Billy's a New York retired detective out there. He was working with us. And I got some fantastic like baseball shorts with glitter on the side and a jean jacket that had like these patches on it. And you talk about being bummed out. He came out there. He's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, he doesn't like to look like that. So that was half the fun. We drive and ride and people look by and honk and he'd be like shaking his head. So
you're wearing outfits and riding
we'll ride to a destination. So we roll into Country Boy right there in Leapers Fork. Probably not a lot of people on a Friday, around lunchtime. We roll in there and Winona's in there. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me, And I know she's seen plenty of stuff and, she just talking to people, looks up kind of like, what is going on? Do you come out in public like this? And I just look like an idiot. I look like a fat Chris Farley, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to get some lunch here. I don't care. Like, I was so happy. And he was so bummed, but it made so. That's the goofy stuff we do, and it's fun. It mixes it up a little bit. And, we can't take ourselves too seriously,
you got to have an outlet, man.
That's what we do. And so that's our fun stuff. So you got to find that as a parent, you're fishing, you're doing goofy stuff, but I love to laugh. I love to ride. I love to smoke cigars. It's kind of who I am. So.
Hey, brother, love it. Well, final question, since you've kind of been all over the place, multiple areas, you settled down here in Middle Tennessee. What do you like most about Middle Tennessee?
I'm going to be honest with you. The people won me over. So I was born and raised in Northern California. Don't judge me, y'all. I left there as soon as I could. Left there in 98. My parents were divorced at a young age. So I left there and came to the South. And I always noticed that the South always had kindness. I really appreciate kindness. And I could talk to anybody. As you can tell, I'm a talker. So I'd see people walk by. I was that kid that always talked to people. Your parents would grab you by the arm. Come on. I was that.
You were on the leash.
Kid. I was like, but I want to talk to that man. I was that kid. So I always valued the fact that people would talk to you and people had kindness in their heart. If you stepped off the curb, they'd pull you up and, hey, get back on here, son. They always cared about you.
Yeah.
And I thought I would love to be in a community that always had kindness in it. And the South had that. So North Carolina, when I lived in for a few years, had that. And I landed in Middle Tennessee, and I just, wow, this is fantastic. The small community, people always say, oh, it's like the Barney Fife community or whatever, it has that, the beauty to the town, but
sure.
Basically it's the people. I love the people. I adore the people. And my job now, I want to go out there and talk to people. Like I love to be out walking down the street in uniform because people talk to me. And I love to, you can be in a cop car doing good in life, but it's so instrumental to talk to people who have questions. Hey, tell me about this. Tell me about that. I think it's so important.
It builds rapport in the community.
You have to have trust. You have to have rapport. And you're in a cop car. It's like, oh, there's 2 cops that just drove by. Yay, cops, But when you get to know me, Ryan, this is Ryan, man. Ryan wears a uniform.
Funny thing is, every single time I see somebody pulled over in Franklin, I'm looking to see if it's you because I'm going to yell something obscene just to get your response.
You better wait in line, brother, because it happens all the time. Uncle Mikey does it quite a bit. So you'll hear that. And, I'm on the traffic stop like this, so the reason I pulled you over is this, I'm doing this number here, waving to everybody as they go by, and they're just like, what is going on? This abstract. But that's part of the beauty of this area here, right? Is a lot of people know you, they care about you. So you're mostly safe and stuff. But I adore this area. So the South is good for me. And I know a lot of people, whether you like it or not, they're coming to this area here. But it's like you're happy to show them a good place to eat, basically. Yeah. It's like they're like, hey, I found a new place that's delicious. Come here and try that. And they get here and you're like, hey, just time out. Let me add this caveat here. Don't be like that, okay? When you get here, just be quiet. Yeah. That's what everybody tells everybody, right? And I know you as a realtor do the same thing. But and another big question that we get from people is this a good area? I think it's good. Besides selling a house, talk to a cop.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And for your job there, it's so vital because while people move in, like, I didn't even see this house when I bought it. It's glorious. But these people down the street, because you bought in a drug area, ma'am. That's why. So next time you're maybe buying through, just talk to a cop. We're not going to tell you, don't buy on that street, but we might say our crime stats simply say this. Maybe do your research on crime stats and say, maybe look over here. Yeah. It's so vital because we want you to be in our community and have a good time. And we're still working on that. So that area is not going to be bad forever.
Sure.
But it takes work to get things taken care of, right?
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, brother, I love you. I respect you. And I feel a hell of a lot safer with you out there.
God bless you, brother.
Having our back. So we always like to give a little parting gift.
Oh, man, look at that,
615 hat.
Fantastic, man. Miss Sean Ryan gave me gummy bears, but I'll take this hat. Oh, I'm just kidding. No, Sean, I'm just joking. Unless you want me, Sean. Yeah. No,
we're going to get Sean on our pod, right?
Yeah.
He's our next guest.
He's in Franklin. I'm just saying. I can't tell you where, but he's in Franklin. He's a good customer. Yeah. But no, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Like I said, for everybody who doesn't know, we talked about Holy Smokes real quick here. And you're a humble man. I love you for being my friend. And our Corky French, who led it, would always say, hey, listen, this program couldn't be alive if it wasn't for you. So you don't know this. Whenever he would sell a house, his tithings went to our program. And we're not talking $200, folks. This man gave a lot of money to our program. And not one time would he ever say anything about it. So I love you for that. Thank you for keeping the program together.
Absolutely. Just doing what God called me to do.
You do a good job, man. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
Love, brother.
See you.